Good morning, people of the internet. You are listening to Debi Radio 79.5 FM, a podcast where we discuss the movie Grosse Pointe Blank, 1 minute at a time. I am your co-host, Hugh David.
I'm your other co-host, Dev Sodiger, and on today's show, we are going to be looking at minute 50. That's right, it's a Friday, it's the end of the week. We have Leslie Byron Pitt, podcaster and film critic, back for one last time this week, although rumor has it we might be getting you back for a future week as well if we can make it work, so that'll be good. But welcome back, Leslie.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. It's been great. It's really, really good fun.
I'm glad you think that way, considering we're hoping to have you back again.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and what better thing to leave you on than a bathroom scene? Because everybody loves a good bathroom scene.
What? So I tried to. Somebody asked me about this ages ago about why do all thrillers, particularly with male lead characters, have to have confrontations in bathrooms? And I was like, I don't think that's the way around it's supposed to be. I think it's always a question of where are men going to go and end up talking to each other. Do you know what I mean? I don't think the logic. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I think that's a good point. Like, you got to look at it that way.
But how often do men actually have conversations in the bathroom?
With each other, or with people they know, or with people they don't know?
Any and all of the above. I feel like that is not something that I do.
No, you don't. I'm pretty sure you're not that's not you. But
I have.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you and I have done it.
Yeah.
At the pub. Yeah. And over the years, when you're out with mates, you're in the loo. So one of your mates comes in.
Yeah.
And you start talking, and they finish while you're washing your hands, and off you go. But also, I have had weird conversations, particularly when I used to drink, when I was very drunk, with other drunks. It happens. Yeah. It's just a thing.
Then they're not this London. Kind of conversation.
No, but then this is a whole different thing. This is a where else would you set this conversation? That's the other thing, because this is obviously a turning point in the plot. This is a key moment. This is where we realize how we are bringing home the threat of Martin's life and his life outside of Grosse Pointe, right there, right into the club, in the very moment where he's just been in this bubble with Debbie and enjoying himself, and he seems like he's been relaxed. Actually, he knows that they're there. He's clocked them, even if we haven't been shown that.
Yeah, that's true. I think for me, this conversation would have happened out in the beer garden with a cigarette.
Yeah,
which doesn't happen in the US. Or... Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not this kind of place. Obviously, it's a movie, so you're never going to have casual cigarette usage in that manner. Except apparently Marcella in a few scenes time, which I think is purely for comedic effect, but is choice.
Plus, also America, they have this weird thing of having studio sets of toilets, usually built for another film or TV show, and they're ready to go. Because when I first went to Australia in 2001, they just opened a tourist side to Fox Studios, because Fox had finally got together with whatever they're called down there, Village Roadshow, just after The Matrix, and they were opening up studios there to do cheaper filming and stuff and all of that. And I was in Sydney, and my friend Will and I went to this place. We went to the studios and we did the tour, and it was a very, very small tour because they'd only got like a handful of sets over from the States of Fox stuff, and then all the films that they wanted to show they couldn't because they were actually happening. Moulin Rouge was literally being filmed while we were there. We saw like a big gate saying "Do not enter" and stuff. But one of the sets, the reason we went because they'd moved Mulder's first office from the first 5 years of the X-Files when they're in Vancouver. They'd put that set there, and we were total X-Files fans, so we got to actually sit where Mulder sat and all that kind of thing. But then me being an NYPD Blue fan, they actually had the men's toilets from the station house, because so much of that show, the guys have conversations in the loo, and the loo became a real part of the whole vibe of NYPD Blue. Was like you're watching a mainstream TV show in which there's toilets and you see guys go to the loo and stuff, and people talk in that place. And I just suddenly realized, and then I realized, how many times have I seen this loo in other productions? So it's also like a production thing as well. It's like I'm sure they built it purpose built, but then again, maybe not. Maybe they went to a location. A lot of Armitage shots, he does seem to rely far more on location than studio builds. And again, you know what? I might dig around. I've got a couple of places I know I can go looking. I'll see if I can find anybody who worked on this show, on the production, and see if we can get some questions answered about production build and stuff. I'd be really interested to know.
I mean, I think, when you've got a talented location scout, you can probably shoot cheaper if you're going on location than building sets. So it's definitely not always true, especially if you're trying to hit, the super highlight locations in LA at this point. Or, obviously if you travel outside of that golden, whatever it is, 30-mile radius of downtown Hollywood, that then causes increased travel fees for everybody or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, it's this weird thing because at different times in different eras of the economy, shooting outside versus indoors has varied. There are times when it's been cheaper to do it in studio. It's been cheaper to just build it because you control the lighting, you control everything, and then there are other times where it's cheaper to go out on location.
And the style of movie will have a huge impact on that as well, right?
Like, exactly. And this whole 90s era is very much kind of let's be a bit more raw, let's be a bit more real, let's be like go and shoot it where it's supposed to be happening.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of this movie that is kind of, TV caliber rather than big screen movie caliber, right? Like it is a little bit more low key. It's a bit more jobbing than showcase.
Have either of you guys ever come across anyone? I'm trying to think of all the reviews I've read over the years, comments. Anyone who's actually described this film as being a bit TV-like? Because I know that criticism has been leveled at various thrillers of the 90s, but I just don't remember this one having it.
I wouldn't say it's TV-like, but there is. When you look at the film, Mitchell Ryan's in there, Hank Azara's in there. He's in This Moment. Kay Freeman's in there, and I think what happens is you've got television actors in there, which kind of gives that element of, oh well, I know this guy's from television, and they kind of pad out and bulk up the movie, and Minnie Driver isn't famous yet, so therefore there's that kind of unknown quantity aspect there. All the Cusacks are in it, so therefore there's that element of, Bill Cusack's a waiter in there, like, so there's all this element of.
Do you think they worked for Thanksgiving dinner or like?
Well, that's it. I mean, you can. I think when it's interesting when people kind of aim the idea of televisual at things, often because it's just like, right, okay, well, I keep seeing the same locations again and again and again. They seem to be reusing them and not in any other way other than that's where the only place they can kind of film, it seems. But I mean, it's interesting you guys bring that stuff up because, I mean, we're talking about everything being situated in a toilet for this one moment. But then you look at other filmmakers, and I was recently writing about The Counselor and looking at the extras and everything.
So good, that film.
It's the most American film that's not filmed in America. It's filmed in London, it's filmed in Spain, and it's filmed in all these places. So there is this element of, and it looks grandiose because that's what really wants it to look like. He wants it to look kind of with vistas and all that sort of thing. So I think sometimes it just depends on what the director is trying to put across. I mean, I think it's really interesting. Going back to Miami Blues, that's also a film that's got a cinematic feel to it, but it doesn't really go many places. It's all kind of situated in one thing, and I feel the same here. I mean, the explosion what we were dealing with in the minutes at the beginning of the week, you couldn't really do that in TV at that time. It doesn't feel like that, and you look at the coverage of it as well. It doesn't feel.
That's
fair.
But then you do have a situation where it's like, actually, we need to kind of move the story along. Where are these people going to be? So yeah, we're going to put them in the bathroom. But also, I think it works because then you get the end of this minute where you get the gag, and Dan Aykroyd pops out of nowhere and kind of goes, "What's going on?" Blah 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 blah. And I don't. And again, like, where would you situate that? How would you do it?
Yeah, because you need Aykroyd to be hiding somewhere.
Yeah. If this was just on the street after Debbie had left, and he knocks on their car window or something, that doesn't pull off, right?
Not quite in the same way. It would be. You could still do it that way.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be quite the same thing, and also it wouldn't be. Different vibe. That would be more like the TV vibe. You know, that would be like Kojak or something. You know.
Well, look at where we are today now, with everything being able to be done on a phone. Like, you get the feeling that you wouldn't even get that Dan Aykroyd gag. He'd be on the phone, he'd ring up and go, "What's going on?" You can sense that, but then it would depend on, again, I think it depends on sensibilities of filmmakers as well. I think with Armitage, he really has an eye for comedy and pacing and everything else like that. And when you look at this minute, you see he comes in, like John Cusack comes in, talks about what's going on with his day and everything else like that, and the audience don't think he knows that he knows who they are. But it's only when he leaves, he turns around and switches it on them, going, "Well, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be doing this," and everything else like that. And that's one gag in itself, and that's a nice revelation there. And then you get another revelation of Dan Aykroyd coming out and going, "What's going on?" Blah 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 blah, because he obviously hasn't heard that little bit of conversation, and it works twofold. And I think that moment is actually quite clever and nicely well put together.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's also a sense of a hint at danger, and reminding you just how, the threat that these guys pose, because we so far, it's, as we've said in a previous episode, it's been very comedic when these guys turn up, and the way they've relaxed and phoned into the radio and everything, it's all been very, very, comedic. And we need to remember that these guys are they can kill with impunity. They are government sanctioned.
Yes.
And that actually, I sometimes wonder if they would have, like, not just finished Martin off right there in there, but would they have gone out and taken care of Debbie for, because she's a witness, she knows who he is, that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you worry that there's a scale here, and actually that's what this scene does, comedic though it is. It brings us back to that moment, and the Aykroyd is the reinforcement,
It's a reinforcement of reality again. Of Martin's world, like seeing the minute before it was Amy, this minute now it's these guys, and it's quite interesting that there is this story that Martin kind of wants, and he's not sure if he wants it, and it's constantly being punctuated by other forces, and much like all this movie, it's kind of turning around going, like, these guys may be like government operatives, but also this guy has to go back to a fate worse than death, is going back to a reunion with all these arseholes that he knows and everything else like that. And I think that's quite funny. I think it's quite funny that they're kind of measuring everything up in the same as almost the same. I think it's a wonderful trick of the film to turn around and be like, yes, these guys are dangerous, but also, are they as dangerous as Amy that you've just met before?
Well, annoying, definitely.
I apologize for swearing there. So yeah, but
it's all right. Dev's a great producer. He'll sort it. Okay. Anything else on this minute, guys?
Yeah.
One last thing. As we hit the end of the minute, the line of dialogue, Grosse says, "What's the problem here? You guys on an alley, right?" And this just reinforces that thing we said in earlier episodes about the class system here.
Yeah.
He's dressed in his working class, bomber jacket and shirt, and also windbreaker rather, shirt and pants, and they're in their suits, they're slightly shabby suits, and they've made a decision, and he thinks he's the one in charge, not them.
It's freelancer. It's
freelancer
and big business all the time.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
really
Freelancer
funny.
and the government, and he's like, guys, and I love it. I love it. That's how this film does so much with so little. There's one line, but it illustrates everything about who they are, what's going on, how they relate.
Right, and it's not the individual moral bankruptcy of milking the hours, right?
No,
It's the corporate moral bankruptcy of bureaucracy, the governmental bureaucracy, right? Like it's the same net effect, right? Like it has to comply with X, Y, and Z.
Mm.
And this is what makes this even funny. Like, I'm sorry to butt in, but we now realize why they're in the toilet. They're time thieves. They're literally time thieves. They are going to toilet on their boss's dime.
Yeah. I poop in company time.
It's a very funny thing if you think of it like that.
But also, given they've been on a stakeout in the car all this time, this is probably the one time they've got a chance to actually go into an actual toilet instead of using like a can or a bottle or something. And they're probably like, "Yeah, we know he's not going anywhere because of that broad. We're going to take a minute." Oh, all right. So yeah, that's where the minute ends.
This was minute 50 of the Grosse Pointe Blank podcast, Debi Radio 79.5 FM, featuring your hosts, co-writers, and co-producers, myself, Dev Sodiger, and my buddy Hugh David.
Today's guest and all this week has been Leslie Byron Pitt, film critic, broadcaster, podcaster. Les, where can people find you if they want to talk online?
I'm in a multitude of places, so you find me on social media under the name AfroFilmViewer. You can find my sparsely updated blog, which is afrofilmviewer.blogspot.com. You can find me at the podcast Fatal Attractions. It's a Fatal Attractions podcast about erotic thrillers and what we love about them and hate about them. I am also on a hiatus podcast called Hustlers of Culture with Hugh. And the episodes are still
This is
up.
your way of saying we need to start again.
No, I'm just saying the episodes are still up. And if
that's true.
Them,
you can find them at Acast.
You can find them at Acast. And hopefully I'll be back on this one again. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Can't wait
love
to have
you back. All right, then. And you can find us at all good podcast players, including the one you're listening to us on. Also on YouTube, if you want to actually see what we look like. Twitter, a.k.a. X, and Spotify. And in all cases, our handle is at Debi Radio, DEBI Radio. Finally, come to our website to check out for more details and more information. That is debiradio.com. And for all of those, it is once more DEBI Radio.
And if you want to chat with us about this film or movies in general, join us on our Facebook listeners group, Debi Radio 79.5 FM Fan Club.
Sure was clear that all of this was new. Concentrating hard like a little girl, smoking for the first time. It wasn't a moment, it was a feeling of mood.